I got an emergency alert telling me to stay out of my basement. When I tried to leave town, something was waiting for us. It was 10:31 p.m. when my phone buzzed with an emergency alert that said, "Do not enter underground structures such as basements. Stay above ground until the all clear." My husband Mark looked up from his own phone and we stared at each other, both having received the same message. "What do you think's going on?" I asked, glancing toward our basement door. Our 5-year-old daughter Emma had been asleep for an hour upstairs. "Could be a gas leak or radon issue," Mark replied, but his voice sounded uncertain. I ran upstairs to check on Emma, who was sleeping peacefully in her bed, then came back down to find Mark staring at the TV. The local news channel was displaying the same emergency alert in blocky white letters on a black screen, but when he flipped to CNN and other networks, there was nothing about any emergency in our area. I pulled out my phone and searched Google for any news about the alert, but nothing came up. I texted Sarah, a neighbor from 2 streets over, asking if she'd gotten the same message. No response. "I think we should leave," I said, grabbing a duffel bag from the closet. "We can go to my sister's place until this clears up." "But Emma has school tomorrow, and I have work," Mark protested. "Don't you work from home on Mondays anyway?" I replied, already packing clothes and Emma's favorite stuffed animals into the bag. While Mark hesitated, I walked over to our basement door and noticed the chain lock was latched. I hurried to the kitchen, grabbed some duct tape, and started sealing the cracks around the basement door. "What are you doing?" Mark asked. "If it's some kind of gas leak, I don't want it getting into the rest of the house," I said, pulling another strip of tape across the bottom gap. Within 10 minutes, I had packed our essentials and was ready to leave. Mark finally agreed to wake Emma, and we carried her out to the car, wrapped in blankets. She stirred sleepily, but didn't fully wake up as I strapped her into her car seat. As we pulled out of our driveway, I noticed how quiet the neighborhood was. If everyone had gotten the same alert, wouldn't more people be leaving? The houses on our street were all dark except for automatic porch lights, and there were no other cars on the road. We'd been driving for about 10 minutes when my phone buzzed again. "Emergency alert. Your phone's GPS indicates you are leaving city limits. We do not recommend evacuating. Please return home and stay above ground. They're tracking our location," I whispered, showing Mark the message. "How is that even legal?" "Maybe there are emergency protocols that allow access to GPS data," he said, but he sounded as unsettled as I felt. The highway was completely empty, which made me even more nervous. Surely other people would be evacuating if this was a real emergency, but there wasn't a single car in sight. I tried searching for news about the alert again, refreshing my browser over and over, but still found nothing online. How could something this significant not be reported anywhere? We were about 5 miles outside town when I got a text from Sarah. "What alert?" My heart sank as I typed back, asking if she'd received any emergency messages. Her response was immediate. "No, Sarah didn't get any alert," I told Mark, my voice shaking. "What if these messages were only sent to our phones specifically? That's impossible. Emergency alerts go to everyone in an area," Mark replied, but I could hear doubt creeping into his voice. "What if we're driving into a trap? What if the basement was actually the safe place?" I asked, glancing back at Emma, who was still sleeping peacefully. The pine trees lining the highway suddenly gave way to a burned section of forest where the trees were charred black stumps. In the distance, I could see a few tall pines that had somehow survived the fire, standing like skeletal sentinels in the darkness. Then, one of them moved. Mark slammed on the brakes, and we all lurched forward as something stepped into our headlights. But it wasn't a tree at all. It was something impossibly tall and thin, with spindly legs that ended in twisted toes instead of roots. Above our headlights, I could see its silhouette against the stars, a mass of crisscrossing lines like bones or branches reaching up into the night sky. As I stared at it, a wave of dizziness hit me, and the world seemed to tilt. There was immense pressure in my head, like something was trying to push its way inside my skull. Thwack! Something struck the side of our car with incredible force, rocking us on our wheels. Emma woke up and started crying as I screamed. Through my window, I could see a tangle of stick-like appendages pressed against the glass, with empty spaces between them where the stars showed through. Mark floored the accelerator and we shot forward, swerving around the creature and speeding down the dark highway. Emma was fully awake now, asking what was happening, but I couldn't find words to explain. My phone buzzed one final time. "Emergency alert. All clear. Please return home immediately." But as we drove back toward town, I kept looking in the side mirror, and I swear I could see that thing following us through the burnt forest, keeping pace with our car even at 70 miles per hour. When we got home, our basement door was wide open, and the duct tape I'd used to seal it was torn to shreds from the inside.